I'm sure there's advertisers who'd be okay with that. But it sure seems to me YouTube just doesn't really care, because these criteria are across the board. There is an algorithm running that auto detects these things in a video, and when it does, you just get demonetized, regardless of if even you flagged your video and said, hey, I want my video to be adults only. YouTube doesn't really care. They'll still demonetize your video anyway, okay? Now, where this really affects me recently is YouTube Shorts, because YouTube Shorts, all right, at most are allowed to be a minute long. Now, I want you to think about this criteria. YouTube is saying within the first few minutes of any video, you can't swear. If you swear within the first few minutes of any video you upload, instant demonetization, okay? But wait a minute. YouTube Shorts are only a minute long. So if I swear in a YouTube Short, that's definitely within the first few minutes of the video. There's only a minute of the video. So guess what? This blanket thing that should really only be applied to long-form content is applied to YouTube Shorts. So if you're making a YouTube short and you swear in it, you are immediately demonetized. And on top of that, when you get demonetized, you also get kicked out of the algorithm. So a YouTube short that may be a great piece of work that's entertaining, but it has shit in it, literally will never get seen by the masses on YouTube. It immediately just, you might as well have not have made it unless you only care about your hardcore audience seeing it. All right? Now let's be honest. In the case of making a YouTube short, you're probably doing it to try to get your channel to get exposure, right? Your core audience already knows about the content you're putting out. When you're doing a YouTube short, you're trying to do a small digestible clip of something that maybe someone who doesn't know who you are would eventually see in the algorithm and say, oh, that's interesting, I like that, I'll go check out the channel. But if you're immediately getting demonetized and essentially kicked out of any search algorithm because you swore in a short, you might as well have never made the short, all right? So, case in point. The other day I'm playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on launch day. And people said, oh, here's some good examples of shorts that you should do. I couldn't do any of them. All right? I actually had 3 different ideas for shorts. And every single one that I came up with, I swore in the clip. The best one, actually, was me having the metal bird. When you're up in the Sky Islands, there's a metal bird. You stand on it, and you glide off this ledge, and you start flying on it, essentially. What I didn't realize is that the metal bird is timed and will completely disappear for no good reason after a certain amount of time. It starts blinking, and then poof, and then you fall and die. And I was like, well, that's definitely a thing you wouldn't know. It's a beginner's trap. That's a classic case of a beginner's trap. Why would you have thought that a piece of metal you're gliding on just would disappear from existence? It doesn't make sense. It's just something you need to know. So, as I'm doing it, I'm enjoying myself. And I'm like, wow, look at all this. And all of a sudden, it starts blinking. I say, wait a minute. Why is it blinking? Uh-oh. And then it disappears. And I go, oh, shit. As I careen and then turn into a flattened Link pancake. It's really funny. It was probably the best part of the entire run so far of Zelda. Because it was just a wow. Like a moment you wouldn't have predicted. Who would have known it would have happened? And then it happened. It was funny. My reaction's funny. And so, go to do the short, can't make it. Why? Because I yelled shit. And if you mute it, it's literally just muted for a good 5 to 10 seconds as I'm falling, and it sounds terrible. So either I leave shit in, and now no one will see the short besides a very small amount of viewers of my core audience, who already likely have seen the video and already know about this moment, or I mute it, and it sounds absolutely terrible, and it's not funny anymore. So essentially what YouTube is doing with this censorship is they're ruining content. They are making it so that content that normally would have been funny or honest or wow, here's a honest moment of how to react to something becomes junk. And you can never highlight it as a YouTube short. What ends up happening is YouTube shorts end up having to be like almost like what's the word? Sterilized content, right? Like, YouTube Shorts can't have anything to do risque, can't have anything. Even, for example, when I was playing Callisto Protocol, all right? So, in Callisto Protocol, obviously, as you know, it's a survival horror game. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of gory animations and things in it. There was one case where I actually got kind of, like, cornered by a bunch of enemies. And they all came after me, and I didn't realize this, and they just, like, it was a funny moment, because I was like, oh, no, and my reaction is funny. I didn't swear. But the video got demonetized anyway. Why? Violence. Violence. It's a fucking survival horror game. Of course there's violence, and there's an audience for that. So as long as I'm tagging it properly and saying Callisto Protocol, and they know it's a survival horror game, why can't I have a short of Callisto Protocol? No, it's too violent. So no one can ever do a short of Callisto Protocol? Because what else is there of value in the game? The fucking main character picking his nose in the prison? Oh, look, there's no violence in this. Look, you got a big goober. Like, what are you talking about? And that's what I mean. Like, again, with YouTube, they're always, like, to the extreme. First, when they started with the ads, it was the land of milk and plenty. Everything overpays an insane amount. Give ads to every person on the planet. I don't even care what content you're putting out. Make a video that's racist, sexist, terrorist, and we'll monetize it, and you can make money and make a living on YouTube. But then that blows up in their face, and within a few years, the door has to swing the other way to the extreme. Now you can't swear, you can't talk about gender, you can't talk about race, you can't talk about politics, you can't talk about this and this and that. What the fuck? So you went from one extreme to the other. How about the happy medium where everyone can meet where reality is? Because that's the problem in life. You can't have it all the way one way or all the way the other way. The reality is that we have to find a medium place to meet and have things that make sense. What YouTube has done doesn't make sense. You're telling me the only shorts I can put out are these really crappy, boring ones where I can't even say a swear word ever. Like, what the hell is that? You know? And it's weird because this also happens with culture, all right? In culture, you have these time periods where things will swing one way, swing the other way, swing one way. When I started on YouTube, you could say whatever the hell you wanted. In fact, it was actually encouraged that you would be extreme and say ridiculous things that were over the top. That's what would get you attention on YouTube. To say something really insulting, to say something really inflammatory. That's the kind of commentary I was doing in my early days on YouTube, because that's what got you, noticed, right? And then all of a sudden, culture changes. Well, now that's all offensive content, Like, well, wait a minute. Well, I was doing it for 3-4 years there because people liked it. Oh, that was offensive. You're a horrible person for doing it. But during the time, everyone got the joke and said it wasn't offensive. Well, now it is. Oh, okay. So now we got to change, right? And that's what happens, is these things change from time to time. They swing back and forth. I want to know when we're going to get to the level where people can, like, be smart and not have to go all the way one way or all the way the other, but actually just kind of be real, but not extreme. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm playing Zelda and a funny thing happens, I should be able to swear, and I should still be able to make money on the video where I swear. Now, if you don't want to see that kind of content, you should have the ability to filter it out, and that's fine. But why are you telling me that I can't be myself, right? Now, there's a difference between being yourself and being purposefully offensive, correct? And obviously, I don't want to be purposefully offensive either, just to get popular. People do that. They'll go on YouTube and they'll go over the top ridiculous one way or the other to try to get that viewership and to try to get that crazy amount of polarizing attention. But, I just want to be real. And you tell me I have to censor myself in order to try to make a living on YouTube? I don't feel that's fair, all right? And I know, saying that, a lot of people will be like, well, what do you think about the people who say fucked up stuff about you? Well, you know what? As long as what they're saying isn't incredibly harmful, they should be able to say it. You should be able to criticize. You should be able to insult. You should, all right? But not to the point where it gets downright slanderously harmful or so defamatory that you now make someone actually not be able to have a living because you made so many people hate them because you lied about them. That's a little different, you understand? But freedom of speech goes both ways. And yeah, people should be able to swear. People should be able to talk about these risque topics if they want, as long as the content is flagged appropriately and the advertisers can choose whether or not they choose to advertise on said content. I do not believe there should be a blanket law on YouTube saying, oh, you swore in the first 30 seconds of your video. You can never make money on that video ever. What? What? How does that even make sense? Right? Or you can literally never have a YouTube short with a swear in it. It'll never be seen by anyone. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Again, you know what that's like? You're in class. Or imagine you're back in elementary school. All right? So you're sitting there in elementary school, right? And the teacher's back is turned against the wall. And some kid who's an asshole decides he's going to take a rubber band and he's going to pull this back and he's going to snap the rubber band at the teacher's head. Now, everyone sees it happening, all right? And he goes, snap, and he hits the teacher in the back of the head. And the teacher turns around infuriated and says, the entire class gets detention. Huh? Why? Because I'm the teacher and you abused me. Entire class gets detention. But we didn't do it. Too bad. Group punishment. Everyone gets detention. Right? Like, what? That's essentially what YouTube is doing. Are there people who have done bad things on YouTube and likely should either be demonetized or have their content monitored for monetization? Yes. Does that mean the entire site should be punished for the work of a few people who have been bad apples? No. But that's how YouTube operates. It's either all or nothing. It's extreme this way or extreme that way. And that's really what I don't understand. You know, you're punishing everyone for the acts of a few small bad actors, and now everyone had to change in 2017. It's a pretty bad situation that's been going on for years and years, and sadly, I hate to say it, it's just getting worse. It seems like now you do have to kind of walk on eggshells. Like I said, for me, here's the good news. I don't care. I'm not making the vast majority of my income on ad revenue. So if half my videos a day get demonetized, it's definitely not the end of the world for me. But for those who depend on that revenue to make a living, like, I mean, take a look at some of these documentarians. You know, someone like June the King, someone like Frederick Knudsen. You know, these videos that we've watched, that if they can't make ad revenue on those videos, they're absolutely missing out. You know, they're absolutely losing a lot of income because that's a lot of time and work. What about Angry Joe, who works his ass off to make a high-end, skit-filled, effect-filled, scripted review? Listen, personally, I didn't find the reviews that I've seen of his funny. That doesn't mean I don't respect the guy for the amount of work ethic he has and the content that he puts out. That's not fair that his video should be demonetized because he swore in it. That's insane. That's ridiculous, you know? So I'm with these people who sadly are being affected by this nonsense. This should not be happening at all. And I actually feel like YouTube sadly is, you know, slowly but surely kind of going into this, well, we don't care about the personal touch of anything, you know, we're just going to make these giant sweeping automated changes and you just deal with it. And that's sad. You know, so many things on YouTube are abused on a daily basis. I mean, particularly with me, copyright recently. Blatantly false copyright claims hitting the channel. They were outright fake. You could tell they were outright fake claims that were not real. And YouTube didn't care. That's just sad. Because people could have entire livelihoods ruined by broken automated systems, you know.